Showtime! The Capital G show starts right now.
What's up YouTube, Capital G here. So guys, we're talking assault modes in this video, and a little while ago, maybe even like up to a year ago, I made a video about assault mode monsters and how I kind of thought that they got a raw end of the deal because, you know, Konami really didn't make that much support for them. It kind of just seemed like something that they just kind of threw out there and they were like, well, if people like it, we'll keep making cards, and if not, we'll just give up on them. But they were so focused on important cards in the 5Ds era, it just seemed like kind of silly to just give up on them. You know, they didn't really get a lot of support, and I just thought that it was kind of sad that the mechanic or theme, however you want to define it, is really never got off the ground. Fast forward a few years, and now because of Dragon Rulers, I actually think that Assault Mode might be a playable deck as far as the competitive level. Now, my definition of, you know, playable has always been, can you top 8 a regional with this deck? Because if you can do that, then I feel like people around the country can play the deck and they can have a bunch of success with it. Anyways, I think that it goes without saying that Dragon Rulers are obviously OP. And personally, I look at them as like a cancer or a plague on the game. You guys ever heard of the Black Plague? It happened a really long time ago, and it basically killed 1/3 of Europe's population. Well, Dragon Rulers are kind of like that in the sense of they killed about 1/3 of competitive decks, but unlike the Black Plague, something positive has actually come from this disaster. I'm obviously talking about the Dragon Ruler Assault Mode deck that made top 16 at YCS San Mateo. Now, I ran into a deck just like it a couple of nights ago, and I should have known that it wasn't a coincidence. You know, in game 1, the guy dropped 2 Stardust Assault Modes on me, and I was like, oh shit. Okay, I guess I scoop now. Now, obviously, I mean, that's like the nuts. I mean, that is basically like everything going right in your deck, but I've always thought that Stardust Assault Mode was a bitch of a card to deal with. I mean, the problem was it just wasn't the easiest thing to summon, and Assault Mode monsters probably should have been extra deck cards, but that's another video entirely. Anyways, let's get back to the topic. Now things are different, and you have an engine that perfectly supports Stardust Assault without a bunch of the drawbacks that the deck always had before. Like, you look at the Dragon Ruler deck, and it makes level 8s really easily, so obviously that makes it an instant candidate. But unlike the other engines, your core monsters, those being of course the big Dragon Rulers, are broken. You know, so if you can't summon Stardust Assault Mode for whatever reason, your backup plan is pretty damn strong. You can just summon a bunch of big-ass broken monsters and just beat the hell out of your opponent. You know, it also means that you can incorporate auto-win cards, like Return from the Different Dimension, into the deck. You know, this deck also has speed that it really didn't have before because you can include things like the 7-star sword, which just, you know, activate monsters and let you draw, and the fact that Blaster, Tempest, and Ravine can all search for your tuner. So it's like, you know, you really don't ever have to worry about having a dragon and not having that other card to make the Stardust. Now, the biggest reason I think that this deck can be considered viable right now is that the Stardust Assault Mode plays are just so much less risky than they were in the past, you know? Like, if you were using the Dragunity engine before and your opponent had Max C, you could potentially give them 4 cards before you even had a simple Stardust on field. You know, you give them 1 for Phalanx, you give them 2 for Vaja, you give them 3 for Phalanx again, and then 4 for when you finally summon the Stardust Dragon, and that doesn't even have the Assault Mode on field. You know, giving your opponent that many cards is just begging them to fuck up your day. I mean, your opponent is probably going to find some type of answer for Stardust Assault Mode by then. It also meant that you were also completely dependent on having A, Phalanx Engrave, B, having Dragunity Ducks in your hand and available at the time, and then C, making sure that your Ducks summon actually went through. I mean, if that thing was interrupted, you could pretty much just pack it up. Look, my point is, there was just way too much stupid shit that could go wrong, and I actually think that Dragunity Stardust Assault was pretty much like the strongest version of the deck. Now, if you look at the YCS, I mean, this guy probably imagined that he'd face a bunch of basic Dragon Rulers, and you think about how hard it is for that deck to kill this card in this match. You know, outside of Blaster, none of the dragons can kill Stardust Assault Mode, which means your opponent is probably going to have to go into the extra deck to kill this card. You know, Scrap Dragon, Dracossack, Big Eye, Black Rose, those type of things. You know, not only can Stardust Assault Mode kill all those things because they all have to activate effects to get rid of Stardust, but if your opponent tries to exceed, okay, well, they use 2 of their dragons, so, I mean, what are they going to have left to try and kill you before Stardust comes back? And if they went the Synchro option, well, then they probably had to use their normal summon, the Synchro. So either way, all you really have to do is survive the turn. Your Stardust is going to come back, and then they're going to have to climb right back up that water spout. From that point, it's pretty much as simple as investing everything you have into making a second Stardust Assault, and it's pretty much a wrap. I mean, if you're playing against a core Dragon Ruler deck, and I mean, they can have 6 cards, they can have a loaded graveyard, whatever. They can only activate 4 effects in a turn, so it really doesn't matter what they're going to do. They're not getting around 2 Stardust Assaults. So let me know what you think. It is unfortunate that Dragon Rulers were introduced into the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! They've pretty much just dominated and broken this game down ever since Lord of the Tachyon Galaxy. But it is nice to see that we have some good luck within the bad luck, you know. So thank you guys for watching as always. I will consider dueling with this deck. I really don't want to use Dragon Rulers, but I will consider dueling with this deck just because it's Assault Mode. Thank you guys for watching as always, and take care. Subscribing makes life happy.